Good evening, everyone. How's it going? We went to this part-time students thing, 5:30. Were you guys invited? No. It was like a thing downstairs or upstairs. Hi, Dev. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. Cool. So, quick reminder: homework 2 is due Thursday. If you need to know or are unsure of what homework 2 entails, you just click in here. It'll tell you it's just the listen and Dix-P set, and that's really it. Today, the game plan is, so I've all but abandoned trying to stack more than one topic. So today we're going to focus on loops, and we'll do a shit ton of practice to ensure that we feel good about it. And then we can move on to functions and modules on Thursday. So, up. So what are the objectives for today? Is this okay? Before we do it, right? All right, so the main objective today is to, one, understand how to write repetitious code. So as we mentioned in the past, there are three fundamental concepts in programming that span all programming languages: declarations, expressions, and statements. And so we've talked through a bunch of data types that cover the declarations portion. We've talked about a bunch of expressions like string formatters and addition, subtraction, all that kind of stuff, which are expressions. Then we talked about conditional statements, the first example of statement, right? And if you recall, a statement is basically a way for us to affect control flow. Anyone tell me what control flow is? What does control flow mean? Yeah. Correct. It's the way the program runs the code, right? So, ideally it wants to go line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, line n. However, with additional statements, we can force it to skip or go into certain lines, right? And so another example of control flow is, or are, loops, which we're going to talk about today. And then the final example would be module/functions. So that's the game plan. And then Python has a whole bunch of different ways to actually write loops. We're going to explore all of them, and then we'll talk about why they're useful in the context of lists and updates. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. So let's get started. So what is a loop, effectively, right? So the way we can kick this off is by imagining something along the likes of a list of names, right? So if I have a list of names like, okay, A, B, C. And what I want to do is I would like to print sequentially the first item in my list, the first name, then the second name, then the third. How would I do this based on what we know about Python? How would you Sorry? Yeah, we can do list index for each one, right? So we can say print, and then, I can call this thing, let's call it foo, shall we? I can say print foo 0. So the square bracket indicate, right, if I'm trying to grab the 0th index of a list called foo, what is the 0th index? Right, the first one, right? And so that's the one gotcha we gotta keep in mind, is that in Python, the start item 1 is actually index of 0. So this will give us A, and then if we do print again, foo 1, this will give us B. If we do print again, foo 2, this will give us C. Now, what sucks about this? rush.
You have to do this process over and over again. Make things up and
Okay, thank you. Right, bless you. So first problem is the fact that actually we have to bless you. We have to bless a lot, but then beyond that, we have to also be like, actually, we gotta write one line per index. So 3, okay, not a big deal. 10 million, okay, kind of a big deal. Or more importantly, what if it changes, right? Like, what if it's like your friends list, right? Chances are, ideally, your friends list grows, but maybe it also grows the other way, right? The idea is just that, like, this sucks, right? It's not sustainable. So then the next question is, how do we make this sustainable, right? Like, what can we do? So one thing we can do is this. So if you don't mind, can you guys see it? I'm like far forward there. The other people might work there. Okay. So what if I did this, right? So I have food, right? Equals to a. I'm just going to rewrite this for my own personal application. So I got that, right? And suppose I have I equals to 0. What do you think I could be representative of? What concept? Okay, fine. So, and then if I do this. So now, I is supposed to be what, effectively? The index, right? Hence it's called I, right? And these cells are 0, 1, and 2, right? What we can do is we can do this, can't we? Can't we say, okay, I equals to I plus 1, and then we can do print foo again of I, what now, so if this gave us A, what would this give us? B, right? And then if I do I equals to I plus 1, and I were to print foo I again, what would that give us? Right. Does that make sense so far? So, super interesting, right? What's the difference between this and that? What we've done is we've taken this, sorry, blood, I didn't see it. We've taken this and we've coalesced it into effectively 2 lines that are repetitious. And so this is why, and basically what a loop does, a loop is just this, but with some syntax that specifies how often to do this. Does that make sense? That's all a loop is. It's a shortcut. It's basically like a symbolic abstraction of this concept. Make sense? So so now comes the fun part where what I want to do is I am going to I usually create a folder for this, right? Oops. Hey Evan, do you know Postman? Postman? Like this guy? Have you ever heard of it? Postman? Dude, it's fucking awesome. Alright, I'll tell you about it afterwards. It's super cool. Anyway. Thanks. Alright. Well, I'm just trying to create like a document. Okay. So anyway, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this, pull it over to Sublime Text. Shut up. Go away. Is that okay for the folks in the back? Okay, cool. All right, so let's get started. So here's what I want to do. I want to just rewrite what we had before here, though, right? So say loop 1.py, Shut up. So I'm going to say foo equals to A, B, C. And then I'm going to say, all right, and then I can say, all right, print foo I equals to I plus 1, print foo I equals to I plus 1, print foo I. Sorry about that. As you can see, I get A, B, and C, right? Now here's a question. At A, I is 0. At B, I is 1. At C, I is 2. What would happen if I tried to print again? Would it work or no? And why not? Why not? More items in I. Correct. So it'll give us an index out of bounds error. So if I hit save, and I were to try to run this dude, see? Index error, list index is out of range. So how can we protect against that? Well, effectively what we want to do is we probably want to stop once I is equal to the length of the list, right? Is that fair, Arash? Correct. So we can write an if statement over and over and over again, right? Or, as you can see, because these are basically the same, we can use the special while keyword. While I is less than the length of foo, print and this will give us the same result. So the idea is this block and those 3 lines are equivalent. That is effectively a loop. Does that make sense? So what I've done is just, you see the print, foo, and then I is I plus 1. Instead of printing it over and over again, you put it in a while loop. And it does this part for us. The trick is you have to tell the while loop when to start. So you know how in a conditional statement you have if, and then an expression that will either evaluate a true or false. If it's true, it goes into the block. If it's false, it does not. Same vein, in a while loop, you also have an expression that will evaluate true or false. If it's true, it will run this loop. If it's false, it will break out of the loop. Therefore, what we're doing here is, because we're updating I at every step, we are incrementing I until it becomes greater than the length of the array, which is our stop condition. Does that make sense? Good question on this so far. This is just to print 2 things. So if you wanted, so that's just it's just a way to print multiple variables. We could just do print I. Same idea. Does that make sense? Sorry?
First print the iteration. First print is the iteration.
Correct. The second print gives the index.
Okay.
Right. I mean, like if you like, we could turn it into a format string, right? We could. You're right. Sorry, that's what I thought you meant. Right. So this is the index, and this is a value at the index. So, as you can see, right? AO, B1, C2, and it stops. If I add D, E, F, it just works, right? And that's basically a loop in a nutshell. There's multiple flavors of it, but that's how a loop works. Does that make sense, everyone? Is that clear? Any questions on this concept? The trick is, if you see a loop, break it out and write down what happens at every iteration, and that's how you can win, basically, right? So suppose if we wanted to write this out as like a table, Like what I would do is this. I'd block comment, and I'd do something like, okay, I'd say I, and then I'd say foo of I or something, right? And then I would say, okay, is I less than length of foo? Then what I could do is I could say, all right, well, let's start. I is 0. Foo of 0 is A. Is 0 less than, I'm just going to go back to 3, sorry. Is 0 less than 3? No. Right? So you go again. I is 1. Oh, and then, sorry. Sorry. I meant like, no, don't stop the loop, but yes, it's better, right? So then, we can do it again. B. And then 1 less than 3, yes. I equals 2, 1 plus 1, which is 2. So now I is 2. C is 2 less than 3, yes. I equals 2. 2 plus 1, which gives us 3. And then is 3 less than 3? No, and it stops. Does that make sense? I mean, honestly, I should have put this first. Sorry, but yes.
The I equals I plus 1, that's your break statement. If you didn't have that,
Correct. So great insights. What Jackie was saying is like, well, if you didn't have the I equals I plus 1, then what would happen? I would always be 0. 0 would always be less than the length of the array, and you would have what we call an infinite loop.
You created it.
Yeah, I did. It's these things. Yeah. So this is the value, and this is the increment.
What would happen if you didn't have
Nothing. It's just for us to see, right? So if we didn't have this, it would just print ABC. So the idea is that's just debugging, right? What really all you need is line 4 and line 6, which will walk through the array. And so the opportunity here is that in that block, we could do a transformation or something useful or interesting. We could read what each value is, do an if statement, etc. Does that make sense? That's kind of the idea here. So, okay, having done that, let's go back to the code. That's basically how loops work, right? So here's an example of the while loop. The one thing you should note is that I equals I plus 1 is the same thing as saying I plus equals 1. It's just a shortcut, right? It's just saying increment itself by 1. Does that make sense? Yes, Arash?
So while I is less than 10, should I number as well?
Yes, it should. So this is a typo. It'll have, yeah. The other thing you could do is, aside from counting, like you can use booleans. So like you can do something like this. So while true, because like, remember, this is a boolean statement, right? Or an expression that should evaluate a boolean. So if you do while true, it'll always be true. And if you want to have a way to break out of it, one thing you can do is you can create a variable, and after some condition, change it. Does that make sense? Those are like 2 ways to effectively handle while loops. Now, while loops are the simplest and easiest to understand. The problem with them is, what if you forgot to switch the entire variable, or what if you forgot to have the I plus equals 1? To Jackie's point, what would this do? It would go on forever. You'd have an infinite loop, and generally, unless you have a specific use case, you never want an infinite loop, right? That'll kill or crash your computer. So that's why the for loop was invented. The for loop kind of hides. The for loop understands that basically what you're trying to do with most while loops is just count the values or go through each value in an array. So the for loop you get a shortcut. You can say for color invisible colors, and it'll just walk through each item in the array. Does that make sense? So if you want to do something with the array items, each array item, the for in is probably your go-to choice, because now you don't have to manage the length or an additional index. Does that make sense? So it's just a shortcut. Yep. So you can say for a, great question. So the question was, can you do anything you want here? Yeah, you're basically saying for some temporary variable inside this array, do stuff. That's it. Next. Sorry?
I was just saying, I often use X.
You often use what?
X.
Oh, you use X? Okay.
I don't know, that's just what I use.
I try to do something like in context.
Oh, yeah, I sometimes use context. That's on how entirely.
Well, if you're counting through an array of numbers, maybe it makes sense, right? But
If it's numbers and integers, numbers.
okay, right. But yeah, so the thing is, like, it could be anything you really want. You want something that makes sense to you when you read it a few days later. That's really it. Oops, it's okay. We don't really need to go into this. But the next thing that's really neat is the range property. So range is just range will get us effectively a loopable thing, which we only know two things that can be looped, which are dictionaries and this. So if you want to get numbers from 1 through 4, actually it should be from 0 to 4. Then you use range. So like what that would do, I'm pretty sure it's 0 through 4. Python 3. What this will do is it will print all the numbers in this range exclusive. So it will not include this last number. So again, if you need to count something, here's one more way of doing it. Now, Dan, you got a question? That's a great question. I think while loops are very useful if you're not trying to count. Like while something is true, right? So if you're looking at, if you're like for example, if you're querying the current temperature and you have like a temperature that you want to get to, you can say while room temperature is less than current temperature, do some stuff, right? Like that's a use case. So it's kind of like when you're waiting for a state to change is a great use case for while loops. And then and anything that's like list based, which is our primary use case in this class, I think like you probably want to have a for loop. Okay, but again, both will work. One is just an abstraction of the other. So you have this range option, which will just give you the numbers. Now, why would you want this? If you look at this guy for color in visible colors, even though you get red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet, what you lose is the index. So you have no way to tell what the index is. So you have two options. One is you can use a range. So if I do this, so first, can someone tell me what this will do? What will this code do? It'll print each a color, right? So red, orange, etc. Ta-da. But then, again, we lose the ability to store the index, right? So if I had this, what will this do? This for loop. Anyone? Ben? It'll print what now? I don't know, I'm saying But this is done. But we established that this will print out the colors. The problem is that we don't have the indices of the colors. So I'm asking, what will this code, line 6, 7, and 8, what will it print? I see what you're saying. You're going like one step ahead. I'm trying to go. Yeah, Cass. Sorry, no. Print I? What does this mean? So what this is doing is it's creating a range. So if you look here, 4 colors in visible colors, it will say, okay, I'm going to visit this, the color will be red. I'm going to do this, color will be orange, and so on. The range will give us something similar, but for a range of numbers. So it'll say I will be 0, then I will be 1, then I will be 2, then I will be 3, and it'll go to 4. So because you asked, what will this print then? Sorry? It'll print 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, right? So let's prove it. And then comes the real question, which is, oopsies, maybe save. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the question is, how can I use the range in order to get not only the color, but also the index of the colors? That's my question to you. What could I do? Who hasn't spoken yet? Michelle?
Sure. So I print the index, you also have to put colors with the index.
Correct. Visible colors. So with square brackets. Absolutely. Perfect. Yes. And to Van's point, right? It will not print a violet because like we just did arbitrarily 5. Like ideally we would do like the length of this guy, right? By doing this, now we get the index and the colors. Cool? But this sucks, right? Like it sucks that we have to do this all the time. So there's another option called the enumerate. Yes, Lawrence.
So that's the range policy.
Correct. It's correct. It's an exclusive set on the on one end. Yes. I mean, like we can, right? But and the question is like you might not always want to, right? Like a dictionary is very good for being able to access stuff quickly and to kind of define something. But you might actually want to have this order preserved for some reason. Now Python does have data structures like the ordered dict, which will kind of do both. But in general, we're probably not going to think or talk about those in this class. But I guess what I'm trying to make is that, hey, there's another way that we can do this, and I'm just showing you the possibilities. Pick and choose the one that seems the simplest to you. But there's this thing called the enumerate function, which will give you back 2 items. So you can say for index color in enumerate visible colors. And what this will do is this is effectively a shortcut. So now I can say, or here, I color. So I can say print I color, and what this does is you get the best of both worlds. See that? So the idea is if you need to access the index of a list and the value at that index, your best bet is to use something like enumerate. So simple, but really it's just an abstraction of range, which is really an abstraction of a while. Is that fair? Can someone tell me how I could, for funsies, how could I write the same exact thing, but in a while loop? Arash, you give it a shot?
Sure. So it would be like while I.
So let's define it, right? Let's just say j equals 0, right? While
j is less than fringe j and then visible color.
colors add j, and then anything else?
J plus equals 1.
Everyone follow that? So here is it. So here's like 4 different ways to do the same thing. If we wanted to just get the colors, 4 color in is good enough. We wanted to get the index and the value. take the range approach or the enumerate approach, or we can just use while. Make sense? Yes, Sasha.
How come you never had to set I to 0?
In these guys, right? Good question. It's because the for loop will do it for us magically, which is one of the use cases for why we might want to use the for loop. Here, you have to explicitly set that value first, like we in the but, or an opportunity for an error because like you forgot to do it or something, which is, you know, it makes sense. It's just a stupid little thing. Any questions on this? Evan, did you want to say something?
Oh, just stretch.
Good man. It's important to stretch.
You can set J as not.
Yeah, absolutely. J equals 5, or 4 really, because it starts with 0. So absolutely, so great insight. What Van was saying was that, well, this is true, right? Like, what if you wanted to actually access a subset of the array? So with a while loop, you could be more specific and say, well, J equals 3, and that'll get you the 4th. It'll get you from the 4th till the end. However, note that because we learned all those array slicing shortcuts, we could do the same thing, but in the square brackets, right? 5 colon or something. Right, and sticking in a for loop. So you have a few options there. And I just wanted to kind of, again, it's kind of one of those things where there's like 8 different ways to do it. There is no good or bad way. There are just different ways, right? And so these are a couple of them. So if I were to go back to the notes, just kind of walk through this guy. So that kind of handles that for us. Now, the next thing to talk through is control flow. So if you can imagine, there might be a situation within a for loop or a while loop where you might want to break out of the loop, or you might want to skip to the end of the loop. So that's kind of how, so Python and most programming languages have a few options that will allow us to do this. So the break keyword is a special Pythonic keyword that will break out of the loop for us. So consider this piece of code. Can anyone tell me what this piece of code will do? Right there. A equals. What will this do? A equals foo bar baz, etc. While A, if the length of A is less than 3, then break, otherwise A dot pop. Yes, Ben. Less than. Right, and as soon as it gets to be 2, what will it do? Okay, it'll stop the loop. So here's the thing: if you like, so suppose you're seeing this, you're like, I'm not really sure how it works. But what do? You create a table. Okay, tables are your friends because it'll help you kind of better understand this stuff. You can say new file. So here's what we have. We have A, right? We have length of A is less than 3. And then we have A dot pop. Does that make sense? So like the idea here is these are the 3 pieces that we kind of want to keep track of. Like what is A? What is the length of A? And what is A dot pop? Fair? And so our objective here is basically we're inspecting this piece of code and we're not really sure what it does, or maybe like we do, but we just want to walk through it, right? And this is a very useful technique that you can apply towards being able to actually walk through what a piece of code is doing. So I want someone to help me out here, right? Let's begin. Here, I guess we don't really need this piece. We're going to do this now. Just do a couple of tabs here. So what is A? When we first start this while loop, what is A? Okay, the entire list, right? Which includes foo, bar, baz, qux, and corgi, I guess. So the entire guy, right? As a shorthand, I'll just do this. Yes, Arash.
So is this going to just delete word cuts as
So,
and then also print those 3 words?
so we'll find out. I mean, like, yeah, let's find out, right? So Arash's guess is that, well, yeah, I think it's going to print out the last 3 guys and then print out. And so let's see if this actually is true or not. So why don't we do that then? So you see what we're doing here is we're taking this piece of code, this block of code, and we're breaking it out into the lines that do stuff to see how it should work. So is the length, so what is the length of A right now? Someone tell me. What? 5. Someone said it. Yes. So is 5 less than 3? No, right? Therefore, it's going to go on and it's going to print. So what does pop do again? Someone who hasn't spoken yet. Okay. It removes the last item from the array. So what will it remove from the array in here? Yes? No. This one. Only this one. Because that's the last item. Does that make sense? So because this is the entire array and we're popping, it will remove the last item. So it will print. So far, Arash's prediction is holding up. Now, someone who hasn't yet spoken, please tell me, what is the new state of this array? So, like we got here, and now it's going back, right? So this array is now what? Michelle. Corrugate, right. Does everyone see that? We start off with a full array. Because we didn't hit this if statement, we skipped this break line and we went right here where we removed the last item to print, and now this array has one less thing in it. Therefore, we go kind of like that. There. And now we say, okay, what is the length of this array now? Sasha. 4. So is 4 less than 3? No. 4 is not less than 3. Therefore, it will skip this. It will skip this part. It will skip the break, and it will once again go to the print. And so now we're going to pop yet again. So can I ask someone to please tell me now what will it remove from this list? Correct. Whoever said that, yes, QUX, right? So now it will print QUX, and once again, what is the state of the array now? We've dropped Corrugate, we dropped QUX, so now we're at, Alyssa? FBB, foo bar bas, right? In fact, it's small enough that we can actually afford to write the full thing, which is kind of neat. And now the length is 3. Is 3 less than 3? Anyone? No, it's not. Therefore, it will run through this process one last time. Because 3 is not less than 3, it will not break, and instead it'll go here to the a.pop. Once again, this time the last item is baz, so it does this. And now we have foo r. And here is 2 less than 3. So will it go here? Ben, why not?
It's false. It's true.
Right, because it's true, it'll go into, okay, and break is a special keyword that breaks you out of this loop entirely, and it'll take you to line 6, which will print done. Make sense? Yes, Alyssa. Correct.
Print just using what it's taking.
Correct.
How does it have saving list? They changing
Right. So that's a great question. So the question was, we know that a.top is grabbing the last item, right? But how is it also saving that array? So do you remember how when we were talking about lists last week? We said that there's a difference between like trying to add to a list and trying to extend a list. The extension will take the original list and modify it. Whereas doing like list plus list will give you a new list. So to kind of expound on that concept, it's kind of like if you do like, okay, 1, 2, 3, dot extend 4, what's going to do is it's going to take this list and just insert 4 into it. But if you do 1, 2, 3 plus 4, it will create a new list which contains both 1, 2, 3 and also 4. It's a subtle but important difference, right? They're going to grab that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then here's a quick question then. So then what's happening if indeed a.pop seems to not, because we're not re-saving a.pop, can someone explain to me what it's doing? Like we have foobar baz, let's say. And I ask someone to please expound as to, like if I do a equals, right? If I do a.pop, like what's happening? Arash?
It's removing the last name.
It's removing baz and then what?
And then that's the
So there is no new list. It's the main distinction. It's the same list, but now less one element. And so that's why you don't have to save it. Fair? Pop happens to change the list in place. If you wanted, actually, so just a quick review then. How could I return a new list that would have these two elements, but in a new list variable? Do you guys remember? Jackie? Oh, you would do it now?
I don't remember
The syntax.
the
Okay. So that's fine. So I'll help you guys here. It would be basically a square bracket. You guys remember that? And I believe you can just do something like you want to get rid of the last one, right? So you can say from 0 to 1, basically. I'll give you 4. Does that make sense? But this is a new list, so it will create like a new list B, which has foo and bar. So again, it's like for every one of these guys, there's an equivalent which will give you a new list. In this particular case, what we care about is we actually want to operate on this. We want to remove items from the list itself, which is why we're doing it. Yes, Lawrence, then Arash. What's up?
So, like, talk about the last one.
Yep. Correct. But you totally can. The print is just to give some sort of output that would display this. Fair? So now here's and Arash, you had a question too. Well, actually, before it. So did that explain? Like that answer your question? Yeah. So pop just does the action. Print happens to. If we wrap it in print, it'll allow us to also see the thing that was popped. Sorry, Arash.
We had something that was like B equals this pop. Would that just make it live continuously like add things or insert tickets?
If you did, say it one more time. If you did,
wanted to make it so that all the things that I was deleting
was being inserted somewhere else.
into another list.
Okay, that's an interesting question. So the question was, suppose you wanted to keep track of the things that were being removed from the original list. How would you do it, right?
Sorry?
Yes, and a new list. Does that make sense?
So B equals.
Yeah, or we can say like deleted items equals to empty list. Is that fair?
Sure.
And then what you could do is instead of doing a.pop, like printing it, so to your point, you were saying something about the insert.
Yeah, would it be like deleted items, dot insert, dot pop?
You could do that, but I would favor the append here. What does append do?
That's the
It'll add it to the end, right? And so now, if you print it here, deleted items, what you should see is, what am I even calling this guy? Thank you. See? And these are the three things that we predicted. So just tying back to this piece, right? We build our table, we have our predictions listed, then we run the code, and we just ensure that what we predicted is what we see. And if we did, then boom, we have properly parsed through the effects of this. Yeah. Yes, Lash.
For a.pop, I think you can put print outside of it and put it into the parentheses, but you can't do that for.
Great question. So this actually hints at so both a.pop and append are a Pythonic thing, actually a programmatic thing, but it's actually a statement called the function. So we're going to talk about that Thursday. And functions basically have the ability to either output a value or not. So append does not output a value because it's just changing an existing thing. Whereas pop, it does output a value because it's trying to retrieve it, right? And so we'll talk about exactly how that works, but effectively that's why. And if you're wondering, well, how do you know? Like you either play around, like you do a print and you see if you get back a value or not, or you read up the Python documentation. And those are the only two ways to know. Or you go back to your source code because you wrote it. There's that. Yes, Raj.
Sorry. In the same question with the deleted items, where we're making like a new thing, you put the empty list outside of the loop.
Correct.
If you were to
Great
put it
question.
Inside of the loop, would it just be constantly recreating that empty thing?
So great question. Did everyone hear the question asked? The question asked was, well, why did you create this list outside of the loop and not inside? What would happen if you put it inside? That's great because one, like you should be asking yourself these questions just to be like, well, what the hell's gonna happen? And if you're not sure, what you can do is you can, again, I'm not gonna go through it, but you can create this table again to kind of make sense for yourself in your head how this would work. For the sake of time, I'll tell you that is absolutely correct. Every time you step into this while loop, it would recreate that list, so it would not remember the other stuff. Does that make sense? Likewise, if you put a inside here, every time it enters into the loop, it would recreate that a variable with those values, so none of the items would actually be popped. Okay? Yes, Lawrence.
What is the advantage of this way version compared to while and a
Great question.
greater or equal?
Did everyone hear that? He's asking, why do this if break when you can just grab this guy and stick it here and it'll probably do the same thing, right? The answer is there is none, except that I'm trying to show you guys how it works. And so it's just a straw man to kind of explain how this break feature works, and that's it. Okay? All right. Any more questions? Great questions, by the way. So I'd say like in here, like line 3 or?
Yeah, wow.
Great. Also, you have a few options. Like you could say while like length of A is greater than 0 if you want, right? It's just saying while there is something existing in this loop, do keep going. Yeah. So let's go on. I want to talk next about the continue keyword. So where the break keyword, breaks out of a loop, the continue keyword will basically say, hey, skip the rest of this code block. So if you're trying to do a bunch of if statements, and you match a condition, continue is your friend. So let's take a look at this particular case. What are we doing here? Actually, you know what? I don't want to go. I'll just do a simpler example. Which is kind of like this. So if I go and create a new guy, I'll say continue.py. So if I have something like this, right? A equals 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm trying to print out the numbers that are even. Fair? So what numbers are even here? 2 and 4, right? So one thing I could do is I could just, so first of all, here's the question. How should I write this loop? I could, like, what options do I have? In order to, what different ways can I approach creating this loop? Block. So yeah, so that's one. I can use a while loop. Is there any other type of loop I can use, Lucas? Sorry? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. All right. Okay. Well, can you take a stab at it? Aside from a while loop, what other potential type of loops that we've talked about could I use? And I'll open up this guy to kind of show you the possibilities. So yeah, I can totally use this range option, right? That would also work. Or in this case, I don't really need the indices, so I could also just use this simpler version. I could say for current number in numbers. Does that make sense? Fair? So in this case, I can say for cur in A, and if I were to print out just cur, can anyone tell me what that would show me out in the terminal? Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's fair. Now, suppose I only wanted to print this for the cases where current is 2 and 4, right? So could I do this? Could I do if cur %2 is not equal to 0? Does anyone know what the percent operator does? Remainder, right? So what is this saying? So let's walk through this, right? Just like we did with the break, let's walk through this concept, but now with the continue keyword. So I want someone to actually lead me in this case, right? So here's what I'm going to say. Like what is cur? And then I want someone to say, what is cur %2? And then is cur %2 equal to 0? And then print. So let's begin. You know what? I think it will be fun to just kind of go down this way. So, hey, Cass, when this loop starts, what is the first value of cur? Correct. Absolutely. And so then, hey, Will, what is 1 remainder 2? Well, is it a 0? It's going to be 1, right? So then, okay, Sasha, is 1 equal to 0? No, right? So then, hey, Arash, is it going to print 1 or not? It will. Well, 1 is not equal to 0, so it will not print. Correct. So no print. Does that make sense to everyone? So just pause for a second and see what we did, right? What we did is we're walking through this loop. So cur is going to be first 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5, right? It's effectively us walking through each element in that loop. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand what this continue keyword, right? So the way this code works right now, and again, there's more than one way of doing this, and I'm not suggesting this is the best way, there's a simpler way. But for the sake of just kind of trying to show you guys what this continue does, bear with me. So we know cur initially when it passes 1. So we're trying to see if you divide 1 by 2, do you get a remainder of 0 or a remainder of 1? this is a common way for us to tell if a number is even or odd, right? Because if you divide a number by 2 and there is no remainder, it must be even, right? That with everyone? Right, like for example, 2 divided by 2 is 0, that has remainder 0. 4 divided by 2 also has remainder 0. 3, 5, 6, 2, 8, 4, 2, 8 divided by 0, divided by 2 has a remainder of 0, right? So if the remainder is not equal to 0, continue, as in short circuit and go backwards. So with greatest, short circuit and nuke the whole thing to go to line 6. Continue to say short circuit, but go back to you. Fair? Therefore, because this it does not have a remainder of 0, we're not going to print. Instead, we're going to go and reset her again, which will be now the next curve. 2. Is that clear to everyone? That is essentially what continue is doing. So let's do one more example of this to see a case where it does work, and then we can move on with our lives. So now cur is 2. So hey, Vlad, right? So Vlad, what's 2? What is 2 mod 2? 0. Yes, Michelle.
So how you
Great question. So the percent operator is an available thing in most languages, which instead of performing the division will actually give you the remainder. Which is really useful because like if you do like 3 divided by 2, like you get 1.5, which and you can do some stuff with that, but it's not super useful. Yep, no worries. I'm glad that you brought that up. And so because and just as a side note, so this is a common way not only to determine if a number is even, but to basically see if like a number can be broken evenly into 3 groups or 4 groups or 5 groups. So like that's where it becomes useful, right? But yeah, so here, according to Vlad, 2% 2 will give me 0, right? So then lemma is 0 equal to 0? Yes, you got the easy one. So therefore, Alyssa, will we print? Correct, we will. Yes, we will print 2. And then we're at the end of our loop, so we go back, right? Because there's more stuff. We'll keep going. Does that make sense? Yes, Cass. Sorry? Yes. Right, because of this, what we wrote, it will print out only 2 and 4. Right? Because 1 will get caught, 3 will get caught, 5 will get caught, and 2 and 4 will go through. Right? And so that's just effectively what the continue keyword does. Yes, Lawrence?
So I print these numbers on here. Could I between row 4 and 5? Could I insert something?
Correct. Yes, we totally can. Absolutely. In fact, there's a very famous interview question called BizBuzz, which actually we give to our applicants as a phone screen kind of thing, which is basically that. It says, hey, if you have a list of numbers, print out if it's divisible by 3, 5, or 15. And what you do is you do something like this, and for your continues, you just print, oh, yes, it is divisible by 3, or no, it's divisible by 15, or something. 3 being fizz, 5 being buzz, 15 being fizz buzz. Anyway. How are we feeling? Okay? Any questions so far?
You just do the same. Stop rid of continue.
Yep. Yep, just print it, right? Yeah, totally. And in fact, I would say that's the better solution here. So I'm not advocating that this is the best way, but it's definitely a way, and more importantly, it's a simple way that will show us how the continue works, which is why I went for it. But totally, right? Like the much better approach is to do what you actually mentioned.
Get rid of continue, change the not equal to.
Check this out. So basically, if cur %2 is 0, then print cur, but only then. And so what that does is, technically, well, this is a better solution because you save yourself one line, which is kind of nice, right? It's a little bit weird looking because you got a tab and a tab, but yes, that would be, so this block and this block are equivalent statements.
Why would you have?
Sorry, say one more time.
Do you manually have?
Right, so in this case, none, but I wanted to highlight how continue works as a thing, because when we do tougher problems, it might actually be very useful to have it to abort out of like more complex logic. Like I think in the practice set you have one where you have to validate a password, right? And I think in those cases you might have like 18 different things to check, and if it passes, you might want to like, if you have like a list of passwords, right, or something. There's a bunch of options that you can use. So I think it'll be better when you see some examples of them in action. But in principle, like this is a valid way to solve this problem, and there isn't anything wrong with it. So cancel that.
So I guess we say
I would just use that as an example just to show like how a more complex program might use continue in a more effective manner. I just don't want to go into that right now because I think that is more work. Yes, ma'am.
continue for some higher iteration.
Correct. Right. It will short circuit and go straight back up. Okay, cool. So let's keep going to the next thing. So we talked about infinite loops already, so we're fine. So here comes the next fun part. And then I swear, guys, I'll stop talking because there's a lot of really interesting problems that we could work on. Actually, how about we do this? It's 7:34. You guys wanna well, how are you feeling? Okay? You wanna just blast through the rest of the concepts and then jump on the practice sets, or would you rather do some of the looping practice sets first and then come back, talk about this, and then try those? Would you rather just like run through? Is there anyone who would strongly prefer to do practice set first? Lucas? Anyone else? All right. I guess we're gonna power through. Okay, cool. So let's talk about how we might iterate through a dictionary. One sec. So, what does it mean to try to, go through a dictionary? So, if you look at a dict, right, we have keys and values, right? That make sense? So it might be useful for us to walk through each one of these and try to do something with each value, right? Or each key, or each value, or both. So Python gives us 3 ways for us to walk through the information provided to us by the dict data type. There's dict.keys, dict.values, and dict.items. So dict.keys will give us a list of these 3, amount, payee, and account. Dict.values will give us these 3, 10, Joe Blog, motion report. And item will give us a key value pair. So it will give us both. So it'll say this is one, this is another, this is two. Does that make sense? And so, because those are effectively lists, we can loop through them, do anything that we want. So, like this is the equivalent of the enumerate for a list, but for a dictionary. Make sense? So the idea here is if we wanna walk through each sort of row of things in our dict class or in our dict variables, what we want to do is we want to turn them into a list because that's, we already know how to loop through that and then do our operations. And so basically, once you know that, it's all kind of the same. The one thing you should keep in mind, so here, let me just grab this to quickly show you what I mean. So if I do print transaction dot, actually, let's start with this. Sorry, the keys. Right. Do you see what that gave us? Amount, payee, and account, which correspond to amount, payee, and account. Is that fair? Now, the one gotcha here is because, like, remember, a list is ordered by the index, but a dictionary's keys have no concept of an order, right? There is no first key or third key. So you're not guaranteed that you will always get amount as the first key in this, or the first thing in this list, even though you created it in this way. Some Python implementations might be nice and do it, but you don't have that. Like, you can't assume that or take it for granted. Does that make sense? And so your best bet at that point, if you really need to make sure you get the keys back in the same order every time, is to do some sort of sort. Some sort of sort. If you look here, like, I've got an example here where what you can do is basically use sorted, which I believe should work. Sorted is a way to basically, so now it will be sorted alphabetically every time. And so now you get some sort of, so now you're guaranteed that the keys will always appear in the same, in some order that you can expect. You see the difference, amount payee account versus account amount payee. Fair? Arash, you look concerned. Okay. And so the same is true for the values and for the dot items. So let me just show you those real quick, actually. So print keys, print values. As you can see, amount, value, amount, value, amount, value. And for the values, only the values, and for the keys, only the keys. Okay, I think this horse is dead. Let's move on. So that's really it, right? So basically, any kind of operation that you need to do on a dict, like if you wanted to be able to calculate the class average, right, for instance. So you have a dictionary of student names and student grades. What you can do is you can say, all right, well, let me do a dict.keys or dict.values and then find the average out, right? And so now you've taken a dictionary and you can convert all that data into one number, which is a class average, right? Or if you wanted to sort by grade, etc. I think, in fact, that's an exact problem that we have in the P7. So, yes, Alyssa. Correct. It's going to, and also beyond that, we are effectively converting it into something that is loopable. The simplest example of that we know of today is the list type. It's a loopable thing, but a dictionary is also loopable. But more importantly, the keys, values, and these guys will represent loopable representations of this guy, which we can then operate on. What I want to do now is one, ask any question. Okay, cool. So I'll take your silence as yep, this makes sense. So why don't we do some practice problems, yeah? The fun stuff. So here's what I'm gonna do. GitHub. Now,
I didn't slack you. That whole question, thing.
one sec. Let me just sorry. So this guy. Oh, did you? Oh, you reply? Okay, I'll take a look at it in 1 sec. Sorry. Anyways, so before we go further here, in the loops, here is the way I want you guys to solve these problems. First, solve these. Does anyone hit me up? Something went somewhere. Lecture 7. Okay, got it. P set. I want you to do one this. Then I want you to do, after doing the loop basics, I want you to do maybe control flow loops, followed by dict loops, followed by shapes, followed by the challenges. All right. Off you go. Is everyone clear as to what the ask is? Yeah, and if you don't, just do a git pull, and it should just pull it in. If you're having trouble, just let me know.
That was why I mentioned my core questions. People are like, shoot.
Right.
So you mentioned that one.
Okay, but everything else you have, right? Is that correct?
You can check it.
Re-add the build folder? Okay. Nope, that looks good to me. I'm gonna squash and merge. All right, you know what? Why don't you guys now, if you need, just do a git pull. Good looks, thank you.
So you have the alerts, anything else turned off for somebody?
Sorry, because I
No, that's
have
fine.
like 8 different orgs that I belong to. It's too much.
I'll
Yeah.
just slide you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
So yeah. Delete the so the things that's telling you more. You can just also that's the thing. It can be So the problem is that they start with a dot, which means that they don't show up normally. So instead you're going to use the command line. So just do rm space and then do dot ds score. And then now do the other one. Then you should be able to do it. But it shouldn't. Good. Oh, yeah. Actually, you don't have to CD in the directory. CD, then yeah. You have to directory slash. So, what if I switch back to the
Please, sorry about that. Yeah, feel free to do anything you want.
where was the what you have?
Right?
You had that one nice thing with the multiple different loops. Was it in here?
Yeah, I wasn't there. Sorry. If you go to ranges.py.
Ah, perfect. That's exactly it. Right. So we had several different ways of doing it. You want to look at each number of one, right? So the range is probably one of the better ways to do it. Is you just get a thing and you just iterate. So make the range, then you iterate through it. Basically, you look at what's going on. So the range. Now, so it starts. So between 1 and 10, you need 1 and 10.
Probably no. With the range problem, no. Probably just one.
Okay.
Actually, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, why not?
So yeah, it's yeah. So it starts at 1, and then it ends at 10. So that'll actually go to 9. It's fine. So then you put a colon, then you hit enter. Oh, sorry, you don't put a colon. Hit enter. So now you're going to iterate through there. So you do for I in, and then where's the name of the range? And then hit enter. Yeah.
Now you have to go back into the. It's not just an example. Sorry, I have to go back into the.
You use I, you can use anything you want. It's just a variable. It's going to do is it's going to go for each value in that iterator. And it's going to take set I equal to each successive value. Then we're going to run your code, whatever you write there. And then it's going to run the next one. So just make it a little space there. So you get, sorry. That's there's a space for being a line.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a never even tried it. So.
Oh, definitely.
This one, yeah.
This one.
Okay, so what happens if you just do two? We tried this. No, there's no other trying.
So I did.
So we should say this. Right.
Yep, so here you go, yeah. So, well, done the business, right? Hey.
Oh, you're Python.
So basically created.
Python. Right.
Yeah, that works.
Python space.
And I did basically.
Python.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're in the wrong folder.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I didn't probably ask me to update the original one, but I prefer that. Yeah.
So cd .. So type /
So weird.
/
Sorry.
Okay, so you need to not have spaces.
Yeah. You can do the A.set, right? You can ask
Verify
it
that.
like that. Yeah,
Now,
send
see,
me really, I think it's really if
No.
so for each item, two is already in. It's already in. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so
We've got 4, so you can for like.
very random. It just prints each element. So I'll go back to the code. Instead of printing I, what do we want to do? What does this tell you to do?
If you guide, you only append to it if the current item is already done.
We don't want to print. We actually want to add them to this. Yeah, we want to make them add them to this broad rather than this. So what do we do first? We check out the right? Throw it in this. Is that yes? So how do you test something?
It's too empty, right? It's too empty. But it's too.
Yeah. So check that.
Right?
No. You're still in top. Because everything we're doing is for empty. So it says so how do we check that?
Two is next. Yeah.
No. I was thinking
Four is next.
that's 1 and 2. So what is that going to be? 2 and 0. So we're going to check.
Set.
It equals. So no. So now we have let's check. So now we have something embedded statement. If I'm on two, so sometimes
It's really hard.
I'm on 2 equals 0.
That's what it's very easy. So you make it off now.
We want to add it to this instance. How do we do that? How do we add something to this? How do you add something to this? How do you learn the word? Not instead. So, and it has to say, it rhymes with instead. Now that you said, very close. What is this? So what? No. So what? The pen. APN. Well, no. So a pen is a method of the evens. You evens dot pen. The evens dot pen. And then in parentheses after that, the I. And so now hit enter. Now go back. So here's the thing. The appendix of the evens is D. What about the time? It's not even then what is it? So what do we do if the statement is false? Right, because we'll see the video. You know what? You can do something that's correct. So just yeah. Now we do odds. There you go. Yeah, and then I have these ones at the end. So goes out of the book. Look at that again. We're outside of the loop. And then we have comments. You can just use it else. So in this case, the two possibilities are mutually exclusive. Two possibilities. So it doesn't matter, but it's possible in other situations that there could be possible. In which case you want to but what you did was correct. So what happened here is, what it will do, if this, and then if this, and then else, it'll evaluate this if. And then if this if is true, it'll do. And then it will evaluate this. This if is true. Then it will done. If this if is false, then it will do else. So you don't want to do that. So having two if statements in this case, which you could instead replace the second if statement. And now save it and run it.
Okay. Let's consider this whole.
You want to hear that? No, because that's just, I mean, it's just pretty. So that's the module. What it does is it divides the number by, which is 2, and then finds the remainder. So if you take a number, remember when you first learned long division and the remainder? That's what it does. It just finds the remainder. It's sort of think of it as like time. So in 15 hours, the time. Well, you take 15 mod 12, you get 3, which means whatever time it will be is going to be 3 hours from now. And then it's just so you don't actually have to count forward so much. You just know that 15 hours from now is the same as 27 hours from now. They're both the same thing. That's the mod. So mod 2 will tell you that there are another 2. Mod 3 will tell you if it's divisible by 3, or if it's 1 more than another, or if it's 2. Mod 1 divides it by 1 and takes the remainder.
Two?
No. I accidentally
Every
it would
just
just
be
be
0.
It's just a way to store a remainder
It's a pen.
How do I do that?
Well, I would do anything else. Same thing.
Yeah,
Instead of a variable. Or you calculate the remainder for the variable.
Yeah, but
And mod
so it would be like C dot.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, just don't worry. Just don't even.
And then whatever your calculation.
You'll never use mod.
Then you say your calculation like that.
Yeah.
Why don't you do this?
That's what I did.
Why don't you like, okay, remainder.
Well, I don't want to just store one, right?
I think I saw. I'm just gonna create it temporarily.
Stop this.
Yeah, control C.
See?
Yeah.
And then
You can always stop.
Then I want this to be.
Well, actually, never mind.
why no?
You can always
You calculate this every time. Yeah. If you don't have I here, so that's how it's
Good for everyone.
yeah, but why would you do that? Right?
Remember what you did in the last.
I number.
Yeah. Yes.
It basically gives you back all this stuff. To have the index have it up.
Okay.
So it's useful, right? And then you don't need this anymore. Nice. And you don't even need the continue, right?
Well, I wanted to, no, because I wanted to continue to.
So,
We want to do this automatically. Yeah, no, but I don't think this would work. I mean, like it would work, but it's like redundant, right?
Yeah. So then would this work?
Well, so here's the thing: you have your else outside the for loop. That
Oh, so this needs to be.
inside, and then you, yeah, exactly.
so,
Then you gotta actually,
Oh, yeah.
right? So the key thing to realize here is that, right? If you're trying to update a value over and
So the
over
thing
again,
about it
then it
is-
has to be outside.
you think
Yeah.
Like for example, the I that you're doing.
Right.
But this is you're creating this off the current values in the loop.
Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah,
think
makes
about
sense.
this. What is the initial of this?
Right.
So each, you go through this. So you see a number, maybe you have another. You see the number you added.
Yeah, I guess it.
Before you do that, you check to see if that number's wrong. Create like a,
So give me a number.
5,
see,
Another number.
18.
around and you see.
No, all arguments are very good. Wait, it actually said that the thing that you told me to do
Yeah.
is
No, that means that you should.
it's not.
So remember the pieces we
There.
had.
Well, basically, just keep on dividing them.
So
So here.
remember how
Oh,
we
you're just trying to get going back to this.
Right. No.
Well,
I think we tried.
that's what you're doing.
So in this case,
Just dividing them all. We need to divide like, if it was like 5 and 18, you divide 18 by 5.
I see what you're doing. Oh, no, That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
See. I need to check to see if
Let's just find 18. Wait, what is a Garrison number?
1.
Yeah.
Right, so, no, let's do 5.
Sure.
Right? Better. And now it's saying, okay, this is, yeah, because you're doing I plus
So,
1, right?
Yeah.
So the last one is
Well, okay, here, so
see
do
that. You should probably
what's
do
it
something
gonna
like C,
So more importantly,
maybe you want to get
I
everything but the last one, right?
you want to see if I
Yes.
So
inside
you do something like from 0
you don't really want to check
all like this.
well,
and
I is check
minus 1. Is it?
I is equal to the thing.
Yeah.
Oh no, 2 minus 1. So I
You can just say if I
think it'll go from
so
0 to the 1 right before
That's
that.
you want to ask for them.
They'll solve the index value.
I is
Okay.
I is
Oh, so you're not.
so
You don't need, yeah, so you don't need this else here at all. It really doesn't.
see.
Oh, sure.
Except you want to
That did work also.
So it takes some.
Oh, you're pending. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. That constantly.
Right. Then what kind of
Let's try a weird one, like, I don't know, 7 and 20.
Okay, so
Well, 7 and 24 should just be.
practice to find out.
you want to do I
You're close.
well they don't do anything. You don't need to do
Okay, so then what is the issue? I get this makes sense. That I.
You're
And
thinking
then why is this one I know.
so it's everything
For my, now it's a new rating.
So.
So we did this right.
It's
Find out.
less than
It's not
Do that.
Oh, really? I wasn't sure that I could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's right. Like usually the other thing, but like you have.
But you know you have 2 variables.
Yeah.
So then, alright.
So I think what you're doing, it like makes sense.
Oh.
I think what you need to do is so you're saying if it's not equal to 0 of 10, you get that, and you're gonna go on and line. So that makes sense.
X represents.
So let's watch it out. 7 and 20.
It's
Right.
not like
So what happens here is that it's going to divide 7 into 20. And it's going to get a remainder of 3.
Okay.
So then it should divide B as
By 24, 3.
3.
make sure it's.
Remainder
No,
0,
0.
which is why it gives you
But then so we wanted to say 3 is the greatest complement.
that also doesn't work because 3 doesn't go to 7.
So I'm
It's still wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a greatest complement. It should be 1.
So here.
Well, no, unless they're going to divide 7. Oh.
So we have 7 and 20. So you're trying to do is so what we do. Let's first swap.
Oh, you printed.
Yeah, let's just.
Does anyone have like a marker?
It's gonna have one with it.
Actually, I'm being a lazy guy. I got it right there.
Oh,
All right, so then you don't want to change that iterator?
I think this is a pull-up chair project.
okay. I feel as though I'm on the right track. I don't have one. Although I don't actually have a smartphone. I have a smartphone. Okay. So,
Let's try this again. So this is 7 points.
No, it's not.
So just swap first to 24. 7. We do this.
let me divide
So
it
it goes through each value.
Right, and we'll say
It checks to see if that's in the soup.
7 here.
It's not in the soup.
And we divide again, we get 1.
It's in the soup.
yes.
We get
Yeah.
3, 1.
Well, okay, so
And then
eight
Divide
is
1 by 0.
yeah, 1, 0.
now C.
Yeah.
This is the algorithm. Right. First,
So then
sort.
after the loop,
Right.
Why
you
do
can then do
So I think you want the argument first, right? Because you do it the other way, right? You do 7 24, right? You do, so if you do 24 over 7,
Oh,
I don't believe so. If you do it this way, right? It should be 24, 7,
yeah.
0, 0 minus 8. So it will be 7,
Okay. Oh.
which actually works faster, right? So the neighbor is 7, so then it goes to 24, 7, and then it's calculated.
Okay, so then it should be right here. Sort. Sort dot C or something like that.
Actually, yeah, so you were right.
So sorted.
Yeah, the features are all in one.
Oh,
Was it? Right?
so now it's just.
No, because we're not doing like.
Okay, so then now it's going to be. Let's see. Did I say I equals to 0?
I think we need to do a while.
Yeah.
A while?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what
So
happens
while-
is that now, yeah, and the big thing is that now we've done
Okay, so then-
this C, and then C.
I could never do this, right?
So
I
then
could
we
do this,
can do
right?
just-
So
Yeah.
here's the thing. If you don't want to use a full big, if you're not trying to generate your like your basically very constant.
Yeah.
So you're kind of saying like you don't know how many iterations to take. So what you should do is that while this is not equal to 0.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, red is not equal to 0.
Well, if you said if like you had A here, right?
Yeah.
A, B. So why you stop when B is 0. While B is not equal to 0. What you do is you do A set B, right?
Yeah,
That
that's
is-
what I'm doing right here.
No, you you totally are. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that for look at the array structure is not the structure. I think they're-
Yeah.
So
No, I get that.
okay, we'll start trying to kind of talk you through like a perspective or
Yeah,
might be similar to it. Does that make sense?
sure, yeah.
So like I'm saying like well we could probably strong arm this kind of work. I think the opportunity to do this a little bit more simply, right?
Sure.
So what I want to do is get up, but I think pick up the eraser. I'll show you. Like my suggested approach, you tell me what you think.
Sure.
Okay? So like we have the intuition is there. It's just a matter of how do we kind of like usually solve that. Right? You can have it and you know. Well, it's like there's like a brute force hard sort of way to like quick talk. You can do optimization by matching.
I just
Around
do
one.
single one.
Right, or you can do some sort of
Yeah, it's like
Alright, so here's my thing. So suppose we have A, and so one first sort A, right?
Yeah.
First
So
sort A.
it's with it.
Now so this we have A is 24, B is 7, right? So what you do is this is A,
Just first of all, we'll just
the
stick
rule is
with
this.
it for now.
Sort A and A, is it going to be 7 first?
Yeah, so actually we should probably do that.
Yeah, so.
And that take a look at the Python docs. But the other, you need to
That's
search.
the last one, right? Yeah. But it looks like in the end.
But actually,
tend to talk about this. But
reverse.
hearing through lists, which are also modified.
Sword.
You will pause that for a second.
Which is why.
So, okay, so
Stuff,
what we're doing 24%
and
7,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which gives us back 3.
Yeah.
And then we're saying,
Now we have an array that's 7 through.
right, so
here,
symbolically, I think that becomes like our GUC, right?
24/7.
That means B,
So what's happening in this case.
that makes sense.
No, well, this is actually going to be.
A percent B is 3. That's
Well, so you're creating a new list. So, but I just want to make all lists.
But what I was saying is, that's the core solution because,
Otherwise.
Oh, so you just want me to continuously make it.
right, with the while, like, you can say like while B
So.
not
A starts
equal
out
to 0.
Checks the case, like, it's not.
Well, you
Actually,
could
it costs.
zero. Is B the one
Then it goes
that
back to zero.
Right, and I'll run B before, so you have this, right? So you do A is 7, B is 3. So 7% 3 gives 1, right? You have 3, 1. A is 3, B is 1. 3%, A% B, and that
you
means
1,
1.
0.
Right, so you get 1, 0, and that's 0.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, so then the first thing I need to do is do this while
So now what this is gonna do.
right? So then the second thing that I just
Yeah, you do everything else for the time, just comment it out. And that's it. So that
I can do that by just being right.
I was just explaining.
But it already
So in this case, what you want to do is, like, so. What you can do is.
what did it
just see if it works, like, get it actually.
Oh. So, oh yeah, let's see.
So instead,
Um,
what you can do is try to do this.
There.
So.
Okay, 6, 7. Yeah, okay. So now what I want to do is like, so this should be in the front, right, before I do the while.
Right, but they sorted did that for you. Like you get that? Like,
Yeah, I do, but. No, but I'm saying the decision. Right.
no. Except it should be acceptable.
So then we go like while,
True, something.
true.
Because once you get there, you just break and you're done. But when B is, if
So.
you want to go to B is 0, right?
Yeah.
So while should we do anything to the
Well,
loop?
so then.
Once B reaches 0 and we know that it's 0, break. Breaks you out of the loop, right?
Yeah, but, yeah, okay, so then,
Get the ball.
so now what we want to do is,
This guy.
we basically want to divide these, right?
Right.
So we want to do, like, C, it's always going to be C0,
Thanks.
we do C5.
Why do you want to do I? Because you only have 2 items.
Oh, you're always only going to have
Yeah, so it's like it's
C0.
overcomplicated.
That made more sense when I had
It goes right.
Yeah. C1, okay.
Now, what I would do is so that value, right, is your new B, right? So you can say B is that.
So we gotta tell you whether it's an A.
And then A should equal to C1.
You wanna add it.
But if you have class.
So you wanna
And
add.
then what you can do is this, right?
You
You
wanna
can say,
say,
okay, if B equals 0, great. That means you're done.
Except one thing, don't actually want to check this. Is.
Otherwise,
Otherwise?
yeah. Well, not
So
actually,
instead of in,
but else,
Else.
right?
you just do an option.
So do C equals AB.
Sorry.
So you redefine AB, right? So you're
Is it A or is it B?
Maybe.
You could also do
Yeah,
like
yeah. Find B, B, B.
that, like not finding this is
And came up with this idea, right?
Yeah.
Like the crux of it is this, and like what I talked about is just like, and here's the thing. This is one approach, right? So,
Yeah.
So here, how about this for the challenge? Why don't you now build this again,
well,
but don't use
so
my
now
some other.
So now this actually does create. We can't use DNA here. We need to use another. So I want to do. Well, because I want to be able to do this.
Oh, I understand.
So what we want to do is we want to do like num and rem. Yeah. Well, actually, it should be
The other way around. Yeah, rem and num.
rem and num. So this is going to be rem. No, this is going to be num.
Then yep, and C of 0, like you do I. By all of I.
Then I need to do these.
Let's try it. Then you should try to do it again. With I as well.
I is taking on, I is going to be 2, then it's like,
Oh,
What?
Oh,
You
I'm
need
gonna
well, like it would be rem now, shouldn't it? That's what we'll do it.
but that's not true. It's not working.
So what was that?
I think there has to be something with.
At this point, right? I'm not sure what's going on, right? So let's print. Now, here's right? Now,
no, because you printed it.
num is 1, rem is 0. See why? Because it didn't update this. So it broke before it updated. It's giving us the last one.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the thing. So you technically can subtract. It's just a matter of maybe doing this. Update C. If rem equals 0, so you always calculate in C.
Yeah.
Check with 0. And now, demonstrate.
Starting.
Right? That's exactly.
Yeah.
Let's try another one. Let's try 8.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, that's also going to be 1.
Well, so then let's not do 8. Why don't we do 8 and 28?
Maybe like.
28.
Actually, that's not true.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Alright, I'm ready. That worked, right?
Yeah.
Because the other weird ones will just give us that number. So I think this
is like
there, this works.
things
So,
Yeah.
I just don't really. I don't really understand.
C
I don't really.
is
So here's what we should create a table just like you did.
then the object.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is then, let's address your concern about like
C is pointing
change the
to
truth,
this
right?
A equals C.
There's a few ways to do it,
To
right?
A.
If you want, change it so that instead of using break, it does some other. Right, or some, there's a few ways to do it, right? But the thing is, the approach is the same. It's just that how you organize that.
I could also. I mean, that.
Right.
Just be like all rem. That's not equal. Oh, but then rem is not defined.
Yeah. So there's some elements, right? Like, so there are some like those are like code specific ones. To me, are more important than like how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Then it's fine. It doesn't matter. Because what happens is, if at any point there's like this to it, I don't know.
So,
Something you don't really have to worry about. Just kind of happens.
right now, you get self-assessed.
That's right.
Yes, that's good. So, we have to create,
That's, yeah,
so I did X.
that's correct. So just like this.
And then
And then put this back. The only problem is we need to keep that forward.
because you're changing the meaning.
No, no. You guys fine. I'll tab it. Right, right. Because at each loop, you're gonna build a new
Or the
something.
right.
See, like it'll work, but it's just like right. And it's like coding, like
Oh, okay.
that. And you're done. So you had it right.
No, 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 you actually do want to.
So wait, so would I put the,
So now
would
it's.
I put the print after?
It doesn't matter because it's like it's asking you to print everything.
So now it's actually take everything.
So it doesn't matter if you calculated the itself and you're ending it so that before or after.
So now.
Right.
It'll give you the list.
So
So
now-
it'll give you the list. So
Now, okay, so now, so now you're doing A dot. Now, you just,
it's not square brain.
yeah,
Excel. Yep.
it would do it for, you did it in here.
Save it. Now it's gonna work. But
You
you
can-
can get a shit ton out of it. You see it. Right. So now bring the print outside of it, and it'll be one. Correct.
See, it, you did it every time.
Got it? Stop. Good stuff.
Right.
No, I mean like you had it. It's awesome.
No, that's okay, I mean, yeah, we have the board meeting on. Oh, yeah, like the pens, I'll be with you in a second, even second.
Yeah, you want to, yeah. That's a valid way.
So,
Or you can build the data to go.
that doesn't work. So, standing up. So, what we want to do is, one way to do it is just add it to it and not add it to the recording. So, create a new list called C. So, how do you make that?
But even then, that'll just give you a single thing. So like I think this
So, now we need to.
I think she kind of had it, and we at the end of it, just do one. You know, I'm gonna go over this tomorrow.
For I.
You guys, it looks like we should probably go over this on Thursday, yeah? If these are pretty hard? Okay. Did everyone get past P1? Okay, it's really P2, P3 is where it gets crazy, right? Okay, cool. So it is 8:30, so if you guys want to leave, that's fine. If you know, I have a quick question, I'll answer. If anyone else has like last quick question, I'd be happy to answer that. Unless you guys can. Yeah.
So when you say,
Well, I linked to the explicitly, right? Maybe, so before you guys go, please fill out the exit tickets.
Yeah, we have to set.
Here, so
I'm rushing things.
see how it looks.
Add ourselves.
I'm actually wondering if we learn this. So,
So now we'll print.
Six. So 8 problems here. So,
Then sample 10.
8, 11.
Then the first one is sample.
Sorry, yeah.
Small one.
Yeah, because we have it.
no, it is actually good. So, this thing that statement is provided to
Does anyone else have any other questions?
First thing we do is delete. So
Give me 1 second.
now, I'm going to check to see if I have an element
But do you know
of.
how to like?
It's we do this, yeah, except maybe we want to check if it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, like we need to write something.
Put a colon, yeah.
Thank you.
Now,
Yeah.
we're in the situation that I
So like sort of like. That's right here.
how do you
I think that's because you first
Oh, yeah. You know, like you kind of like aim yourself out. I don't know how many questions that you want me to address. So on I'll right there. So we start off Thursday by just going over all these problems. And if we don't get into functions,
we can set that.
ooh, okay, so
You're not
I see
guaranteed.
what you're doing.
This
There's a similar approach.
say so.
So the similar approach to this.
So you're not guaranteed. Remember, like we talked about. So you can use set or something like that. So if the word
Or I
it's a practice problem.
I
Yeah,
is
you want to.
in
I think it's written. You need to do
this will do the entire
equals set.
So for example, we have 1, right? 1 in
And
X,
then
no.
apply this
Now
transformation
I have 1.
to this.
2 is 2 in X?
And then you use.
No, it's not yet. Right, so that's 4.
Okay, so that is not set.
Probably, and then 2 is in X, so continue. 1.
It's because this is removable.
The
Removable objects are on the chain, which is, and so you can't put them in set.
That's what I did for my other problem.
yeah, and also,
But
so,
there,
you know,
created a set.
like 1 point.
And
So, yeah, you're next, you got a question, so,
you set. And
So-
then parentheses, you put.
couple of things. So that you're doing here, this is very bad, but you're creating an array with one thing in it. You want to, for the A, just use the keyword A. Okay? So, here's the strategy, right? So,
Yes.
so you have these sites. So, let's say A is,
You can put like excludes anything that is.
A is
It's not
1,
on.
2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 1. And X is empty. Probably empty. Say 4, I is empty. So I is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2,
The other thing I'm doing is
I.
dictionary.
I will first be 1, then I'll be 2. And so that's
You have anything
and then X has to be 0, right? You can say if I is
so anything that you don't set. You
so I is 1, right? Is 1 side X. 1, right? So if it is an X, then it continues because we don't care. Otherwise, X dot append I. Right, so like, so I is 1, right? Is 1 in X right now? No, so add 1, right? Now X is on. What? Now you go 2, right? 2 is I is now. Yeah, we go back up here. I is 2. Yeah, I is now 2. First I was 1. Oh yeah. Now I is 2. Is 2 in here? No. Got it. Got it. Now you go back again. And now what's I? So this part. This part is you trying to go from B, right? So first I was 1, then I was 2, now I is 4. Now you say, okay, is 4 inside of that? Is there 4 here? Oh, you got it, okay. Got it?
Alright, you write down, you write down. Okay, so do you?
No, I represents one.
Oh, so
Right.
That's why the inverse to floats. And you go to one, I is one,
Yeah.
right?
You do that.
One inside X. So that don't append. Go back
You go to
to
like
here,
which is where
the
you're
I is not two.
oh, yeah.
For loop goes from the first, so first I is one, then I is two, then I is four, then I is one. No, not going back, it's going forward. So I is one again. I is two, I is one, I is one, I is one. Each time you gotta do it, you gotta say, well, is this inside of X? Yeah, I is X.
You go to the
I is
full
one.
order with the file.
Initially, it's not. It's the other way.
Right.
I would change my record.
No, you change it to yeah.
Alright, let's start again.
Then I do.
That should.
I is next.
No, not that. I need you to. You can tell me what that is.
Okay, that's fine.
So
So for this.
The different, right? Starting, isn't it? So X is X, right? What this does is it goes through each item. So the first item,
so
right,
what you're doing
is one inside two. You have to add it. Why? Because it's saying I is the same, right? So and then when it gets here,
Okay.
now this block is done. Now I becomes reset to 2 and it does the block again. Look at that. So now I is 2. It's 2 and X. No, right? So what's next, right? Right? So it goes, so it is 2 and X. No, it's not. You gotta go here. This is stable, right? But it'll only run this if this is true. If 2 was inside of X, then it would. But 2 was not an X. So it went here and added. Here's the end of the loop, right? Where the end of the loop, you're gonna go up to the top again. I is now 4. I think what you're not following is the idea that this code will run once for the first item, again for the second item, again for the third item, all the way to the end.
Oh, so it's not.
So like, what would the if I wanted to add two of these things? Like I'm trying to like perfect.
Don't let, so here's the problem, so you measure all of this. Just try to understand this part. What is this doing? For I and K, right? Today, I is just a value. Up it says for a number. Okay. Where the number is 1 and 2. So it's saying first set number to be the first item in the array, do some shit. Then set number to be the second item in the array, do some stuff. Until you get to the end. Is that fair? So number will equal to the first item and the second item and the third. Agreed? Then you say, okay, is that number inside this other value? If it's not, then if it is, then continue. If it's not, then add it to the other. So that number 1 is now added here. Okay, good, right? Now you go again. But now the number's moved on to the second number, 2. So it's 2 inside of this. Like it wasn't, right? So add it. Great. Then you go again. So now the number is no, add it. Okay. And then you go again. 1.
One is inside of that.
So then don't add this. Just go back up to the start. Okay, 2. 2 is next. Go back up to the start. 1. 1 is next. Go back to the start. Next.
So 8 now it's gonna
And now you're at the end of the list. So now you're done. So now you remove, right? If you're the duplicates, and then you got rid of them. You only have enough. think that's it, right? Right, so you can just say b plus x.
Right. B plus x.
Yep.
X is equals x. Yeah, that was part of this. Were there 3 lists or 4?
Well, you create x, so x, b. You create, so it becomes 3. It was 2 lists, a and b, and then you add another 3 lists. Yeah. FYI, you call your list z. So you call z x list. Okay, please don't forget your adjectives.
I just wanted to know
They don't know for this, alright.
for like this, not that or
Yeah, because it's like,
for like
yeah, it's just one, but the answers are in front of you. So instead of test, I've got answers.
Alright, but so in order to do it, I would have to be like not the pydev.
Well, no, so like, you cannot help it, all you gotta do is this. Just that P1, the answer P1. Okay. You just have to.
So alright, I thought it was just
No. Sorry, no.
Actually, so
You did, sorry, yeah. Awesome. Alright, great. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.